And how can I forget about Nam? Nam is a Hindi basically, or a sheik that lived in the desert. So he was living in the desert, right, with his family and his community of people. He was like, they're like, the water has dried up here. We need water. He's like, I'll go into the Budokai Tenkaichi tournament and I will win us water. I'll save our village from certain destruction. Through starvation and thirst. They were gonna die. But then he was like, nah, I ain't gonna let that happen. I'll go save my people. So then he went to the tournament and he was one of the 8 contestants. He defeated Ran Fan in the tournament. That was some girl who thought she had the moves and shit, and she looked kind of all right, and Nam was like, damn, this is a girl. But he was like, no, my village and my purpose for why I'm here, I ain't gonna let that fuck me up. He was like, no, I won't lose to girl. No, we will not do that. That type of thing. He ended up defeating Rampan. She had to take that L. You know, After that, he was in the semifinals with Goku. Goku ended up beating Nam. You know, Later on, Nam, like I said, Nam was defeated by Goku, but they knew Nam to be a good guy. He wasn't a bad guy. He just, was in the tournament. He had to lose. So he was like, Bulma was like, here, take a capsule. Need it for your people. She had plenty and shit. This girl's kind of spoiled, but like she's, also cool and giving to like, people who need it. And like he's a good guy. So then she gave him the capsule and he had that water for his people. But he traveled then with Goku as well to like, find like why the water wouldn't flow to begin with, and it was because of Giran's people, having the dam on the, water, they kept it all for themselves, they dammed up the water so it couldn't flow throughout the whole land and shit. So then they, talked and other things, and then, the water started to flow again. So then Nam didn't have to worry about always going back to the city to get water. It was, flowing through city. But Nam was in the first Budokai Tenkaichi tournament, and he made it to the semifinals, and he fought against Goku. So his strength is 77%, 74 for his speed, 75 for his durability, 75 for his endurance, and a 74 for his intelligence, 83 for his experience, and an 84 for his close skill, 74 for his range skills, and a 75 for his recoup, 74 or a 79 for his hacks, and the overall power score of a 77. For Nam. Be cool, calling on the corner.